Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I have been doing travel ball all day long. Got back. I watched my Auburn Tigers take out the Mississippi State Bulldogs last night, so was up a little bit late last night, and then got up at like 6 o'clock this morning to go take my son to do travel ball. So I literally got home and passed out in my chair for a little bit when I got home. At about, I guess I got home at about 3 or so. Fell asleep in my chair for about 30 minutes, and that kind of got me going again, but I haven't been ready to do a video until right now. Now, this article you're looking at, this is from Zero Hedge, and this was a really good article that was written about, it's about what the central bankers have done, and it makes a really interesting comparison here. Basically comparing central bankers to engineers. And basically saying they've engineered a disaster. And the illustration or the analogy that they used here is this Tacoma Narrows Bridge. This is a bridge that was created back in the 40s. Let me see if it says says the Tacoma Narrows Bridge was a suspension bridge that connected Tacoma and the Kitsap Peninsula, spanning the Tacoma Narrows Strait of Washington's Puget Sound. Well, basically, when you read this, the gist of it is that these two engineers were trying to save money and decided that they had a great idea that would work from an engineering perspective. It says, according to their novel theory of elastic distribution, the stiffness of the main cables would absorb up to 1/2 of the static wind pressure, pushing a suspended structure laterally. Thus, the energy would then be transmitted to the anchorages and towers. And then it tells you how they did it using this theory. Problem was that their engineering theory was 1,000% wrong. It says on November 4th, 1940, roughly 4 months after opening, wind-induced area-elastic flutter twisted and collapsed the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. There's an actual video that you need to go watch. Though luckily there was only one car and the guy got out of his car. But this actually happened. It was just from a windstorm, and it twists and just this bridge is literally just flopping up and down and eventually collapses. Now, the reason that he uses this is to illustrate, he's comparing this to what the disaster that these central bankers have engineered across the world, but specifically in the United States. So I wanted to read this last part to you. Final collapse is inexorable. Central bankers like to flatter their profession. They fancy themselves scientists and engineers. They aggregate data and display it in colorful charts and graphs. They devise theories as to how to make graphs adjust in ways considered favorable. They overlay arrows on their charts, and sometimes to add real scientific credibility, they even use footnotes. The whole endeavor is absurd. The economy, remember, is a social system, not a physical system. What works well at one time may fail at another, and what fails at one time may succeed at another. What's thought to be accumulated knowledge becomes, in effect, a liability. When Alan Greenspan first executed the Greenspan put following the 1987 Black Monday crash, financial markets were well positioned for this centrally coordinated intervention. Interest rates, after peaking out in 1981, were still high. The yield on the 10-year Treasury note was about 9%. There was plenty of room for borrowing costs to fall. Yet now, in a world with $17 trillion in negative yielding debt and asset prices, including U.S. Treasuries, bubbled up beyond the comprehension, the Fed has fabricated a financial system that's reliant on extreme central bank intervention to remain solvent. Over the last 2 weeks, the Fed has pumped hundreds of billions of dollars into the financial system through the overnight repo market. These repo operations are scheduled to continue every business day until October 10th. with the option for them to continue longer. Our guess is that the Fed will continue until something cracks, which may be much sooner than expected. Stormy winds are blowing across credit markets, twisting and bending them like the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. The Fed, despite its scientific fascia, is relying on judgment, guided by gut. It's doing all it knows how to do: create credit and inject it into the financial system. Greenspan got us into this mess, and there's no dampening it. Final collapse is inexorable. How good of an article is that? I mean, these guys nailed it big time in this. Had to show it to you. Okay, now this tweet nails it too, from John Kevin Mew. This is amazing right here. Look at this tweet. What gives fiat value? Is there any underlying asset that backs its value? None. Kenya's monetary system is undergoing a change of currency notes. September 30th, 2019 is the deadline for exchanging your old 1,000 Kenya shilling notes with the new notes. And he lays out all of this, but this is the real part I wanted you to see. This is from the Central Bank of Kenya. And I want you to think about how much confidence can you have in the dollars in your pocket when you realize and read this and realize that this is all that gives it its value, and that is that you trust this central bank. So what happens when we have this final financial collapse? Who's going to trust these central banks? But look at this. Central Bank of Kenya. We know you have had 119 days, 16 weekends, almost 4 months. But do one last check this weekend. Do some spring cleaning if you must. You may end up finding the old 1,000 bob in some long forgotten trousers, because after Monday, that's it. It becomes waste paper. So in other words, let's say you've got $100, $100 US in your pocket that are supposed to be worth $100, that is supposed to have some kind of value. And the government comes out and says, hey, we've decided to change out those dollars, and now we're gonna call them turds. Okay, tomorrow, instead of your $100 being worth $100 and having that value, it's going to be 100 turds that you're going to want to have. Well, I've never seen anything that truly illustrates the absurdity of this fiat system than this tweet right here. It's totally a joke. The monetary system is a complete joke. And the reason people will flood to things like XRP and the Bitcoin is because of that scarcity. You can, if your fiat is tied to nothing, and you've got a digital asset that's got a scarcity to it, and at some point it might be tied to something. Some of them will be. It's not a question. They will be. Who's going to want to have fiat that's backed by nothing that these governments print at will to try to manipulate things in their favor? Nobody. Okay. Moving along, Mr. B, XRP, at XRP, Mr. sent me a couple of things. First one's from JR Ewing, 1_XRP. I've told you all before, I am a huge Dallas fan, the TV show. Well, he said it's almost time and tweeted out, this is a screenshot of the interview where Brad Garlinghouse talked to this Julia Chatterley on CNN. But I thought that was an interesting tweet. And then this, Anthony Pompliano, who is very good at tweaking people on Twitter. He is a professional tweaker, I've decided, just like John McAfee is. Someone just introduced me to the Ripple XRP team because Brad Garlinghouse will be in New York City this week. Should I record an episode of Off the Chain with him? If so, what should I ask him? Now, Pompliano is smart, and I believe that he worded it this way intentionally. He wanted Ripple and XRP to be the same thing, and he knew that would get us all going. I think Anthony Pompliano is a good guy. I think that he's just a smart guy that knows how to play it. And then Life's Tough. This is Dustin Plantholt, who has a podcast and had interviewed Pompliano, I think a week or two ago. But he says, love to join you guys. It appears our episode helped open the door. This will be epic. And then, Pompliano got so much mileage out of this. Bull Run Wonka had replied to and said, Joel Katz, David Schwartz, you have been summoned. Like he wants to hear David Schwartz interviewed by Anthony Pompliano. I think that David Schwartz could set all of the Bitcoin people straight by being on this podcast. So I hope he and Brad Garlinghouse do it. And then they even did an article write-up on Pompliano's tweet. From Sergeant Obi-Wan, Anthony Pompliano's Ripple and XRP proposition goes viral. And here's the article. And it shows his tweet and then shows here's a response. He's telling him what questions he wants him to ask. What are Ripple's expectations for regulatory clarity? What Ripple will do if the SEC gives the clarity Ripple wants? What if they don't? And then Green Eggs and Ham, Sam I Am, had said, yes, you're missing one of the biggest opportunities in our lifetimes, So everybody, and then Bank XRP said, ask him to explain this simple GIF. And then, but all sorts of people, and then there was some people fighting and all this same type of stuff. But Anthony Pompliano, who is good at what he does, has gotten everybody talking about him. I'm even talking about, when you've got the digital asset investor talking about you, you know that you've done something right. I'm just kidding there, by the way. Brian Melancholy XRP at Mike Honcho _11 sent this great tweet from Bull Run Wonka, level playing field. And this is a tweet I think we've shown on here before, but it's never hurts to show David Schwartz great tweets on occasion. ILP will create a massive level playing field for systems to compete for use cases, just as TCP did. If XRP can't win on a level playing field, it deserves to lose. Our strategy is not to trick or force people to use XRP. And basically, when I read that, what I see there is back when the internet was created. At first, you couldn't send an email from an AOL email address and then go to, say, a Facebook.com address. You couldn't go to different companies. It was like everybody was on their own internet. But once they had TCP, then we could all interact. And that's what he's saying ILP is for money, is going across digital assets. And that's what XRP is going to be involved in. And that's why it's so huge. Okay, Michael at VAL5 links. Executives at U.S.-based cryptocurrency options exchange LedgerX are claiming that their primary regulator, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, has acted unfairly, favoring their legacy rival Bakkt over the Chicago-based crypto native firm. And this is an article that was written up on this. Apparently, the CEO of LedgerX is really angry about this and is saying that the CFTC had approved them more or less and gave the approval to Bakkt first so that they didn't get the jump on Bakkt. Now, this does not surprise me in the least. I've told you for a long time. If you think all these government agencies are not in bed with Goldman Sachs and all the powers that be, then think again. At the SEC, the Treasury, Goldman Sachs, and all these major Wall Street firms, it's like a revolving door. All of them go from one company to the SEC, to the Treasury, and back again. And that's the way that life works. So this is not just for futures. Write it down that you heard it here first. You know, we've been hearing about, will they approve the VanEck ETF and all that? No. What you're going to see is out of nowhere someone like Goldman Sachs get approved for the first Bitcoin ETF. It's not going to be given to some jackleg company that's not one of the in the club. It's going to be somebody like Goldman Sachs, or maybe Bakkt will create a Bitcoin ETF, but it's not going to be one of these people that's not in the group, not in the club. They're going to give it to somebody big first so that they can make the upfront moolah. That's how the world works. You young people listening to me, if you think, and this is part of the reason I went with XRP, because these guys were going to the government. I don't care what Bitcoin is. The powers that be are not going to let something like that take over the world, the financial world. They're going to go with the one that has the smart people who are connected to government somehow, and that's the one they're going to help make it happen. XRP, the greatest digital asset ever created. Michelle Vandenberg sent me this. This is from XRP Neo. So Coinfield will announce their XRPL project in Malta around the time of swell. Interesting. And Coinfield has, which is a Canadian exchange, has said that they were going to announce this, and they said that whatever they're going to announce is a game changer for XRP. So we need to keep our eyes on that ball. Jonathan D at XRP_YD7 sent me this. I'm not going into the article. It speaks for itself. In depth, Asian institutional investors are increasingly showing interest in allocating a small portion of their portfolios to crypto hedge funds, writes Nina Zing, I guess is how you'd say that. So, and I've said this from the beginning of this channel. In the end, what you're going to have is you're going to have 0.5%, anywhere from 0.5% to 5% of everyone's portfolio is going to be in crypto or a crypto, whether it's just Bitcoin or a crypto ETF that comprises the top 10 digital assets. But there will be thousands of crypto ETFs in the end for that purpose. Okay, great tweet. You need to go watch. It's a little short video that XRP veteran put out, Christine Lagarde, about central banks and digital currencies. She tells you in this 25-second clip, central bank digital assets are coming. It's just a matter of, they're coming. It's just a matter of time. Cheney Patel, and she acts like it's in a pretty short period of time, I think. At Cheney Patel 29 sent me this. This is a great I Am Legion tweet. This short video right here, it's 50 seconds. The era of free banking. We have been here before. Private versus government money. Are the banks preparing for this? Do they know something that we don't? JPM coin, Wells Fargo coin. That's why they hate Libra. Too popular. Go watch that video. It'll open your eyes. Crypto View at Brando Aguilera sent me this. He's driving through Miami, and what does he see? Crypto without chaos, a Gemini advertisement. I've told you many times, before this is over, you're going to be wrapped in crypto advertising, more and more of it. Then from at ECOSSEXRP1 sent me this about Cardano. New Balance to use Cardano in global supply chain. I'm not going to go further into the article, but this is one of the first times that we've seen, we're starting to see Cardano finish. All we've heard for 2 years is about how they're testing Cardano and this. And now finally, I think they've finished, and now we're starting to read about use case. And this is one of the first ones I've seen. All right. And finally, Red 7822, we've got a request. He wants his child Jackson to be the official XRP kiddo of the Digital Asset Investor channel. And this is the official XRP kiddo of the Digital Asset Investor channel. What a cute kid. I am the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family to not forget that Jackson is the official XRP kiddo of the Digital Asset Investor channel. Thanks for listening.